everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, as most of you know, the year 2019 is known as the Year of the Pig. And I realized that I haven't blogged anything pig-related since Penelope. So, I decided to look back at some of my previous blogs that I've made to get an idea, and then it occurred to me. Several months ago, I did blog 2 Japanese animated films that Hayao Miyazaki has shared with us here in America. And, of course, those being films like Spirited Away and Castle in the Sky. Also, I did remember that Miyazaki did make a movie that was pig-related. So, let's not waste any more time and get started. Released in Japan on July 18th, 1992, the movie is Porco Rosso. So, let's get started. In 1930s Italy, sky pirates and biplanes terrorized wealthy cruise ships as they sailed the Adriatic Sea. The only pilot brave enough to stop the scourge is the mysterious pilot Porco Rosso, a former World War I flying ace who was somehow turned into a pig during the war. As he prepares to battle the pirate crew's American ace, Porco Rosso enlists the help of spunky grill mechanic Fio Piccolo and his longtime friend, Madame Gina. So, what do I think of the movie? Well, to me, this movie is good, but it's not my favorite compared to most of Miyazaki's other works. But let's move on to Mustang notes. The film was originally planned as a short in-flight film for Japan Airlines based on Hayao Miyazaki's manga, The Age of the Flying Boat, but it grew into a feature-length movie. The outbreak of war in Yugoslavia cast a shadow over production and prompted a more serious tone for the movie, which had been set in Croatia, or however it's pronounced. The airline remained a major investor in the movie and showed it as an in-flight film well before its theatrical release. Due to this, the opening text introducing the movie appears simultaneously in Japanese, Italian, Korean, English, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, Russian, French, and German. Porco Rosso is one of the few movies directed by Hayao Miyazaki in which the historical and geographical settings are clearly defined and where most of the story could have happened in the real world. Marco is an Italian hero from the First World War and is shown fighting against Austro-Hungarian fighter planes in a flashback sequence. And the story is set in the Adriatic Sea east coast between Dalmatia and the Kvarner Islands, a fictionalized city of Fiume after its annexation to Fascist Italy and Northern Italy. Porco makes statements of his being anti-fascist, quipping during one scene where he said, "I'd much rather be a pig than a fascist." Miyazaki shed light on the political context of the making of the movie in an interview with the Empire. He reflects that the conflicts that broke out during the film's production made Porco Rosso a much more complicated and difficult movie. Evident historical and political realism aside, at least one scholar has argued that the film's more overt historical references can be understood as representative of Weikun Yosai, which means Japanese spirit Western techniques, which is a tendency since the Meiji period for Japanese artists to paint Europe as spectacular while simultaneously maintaining the distance necessary to preserve a distinct sense of Japanese identity. Also, in 2011, Miyazaki said that he wanted to make a follow-up anime to the 1992 original film if his next few films following Ponyo were successful. The film's working name is currently Porco Rosso, The Last Sortie, and will be set during the Spanish Civil War, with Porco also returning, albeit this time as an old pilot, reflecting Miyazaki's own aging. Miyazaki is writing the movie, but Hiromasa Yonbayashi will be directing it. Unfortunately, due to both Miyazaki and Yonbayashi's departure from Studio Ghibli and the current hiatus of the studio itself, the current status of the proposed sequel remains uncertain. As for the animation, well, because this movie is from Studio Ghibli, there's nothing to complain about here, since Studio Ghibli is one of the best Japanese anime studios ever. Next to Toei Animation, that is. One of my favorite parts of the movie are the flying scenes, and I do find it interesting that this movie mentions the Great Depression, since this movie does take place in the 1930s. However, in my opinion, the dogfight scene is pretty weird and, of course, pretty silly. And I think some parts of the story could have, used some more work. Like, why the Italians want to arrest Porco, and how he intends to lift his pig curse. Plus, the ending was a tad weak, but it's just my opinion anyway. Now let's move on to the characters and their English voice actors. Our title character, Porco Rosso, aka Marco Pagat, is voiced by Michael Keaton, who has been previously in Tim Burton's Batman, Herbie Fully Loaded, Toy Story 3, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Tim Burton's Dumbo. Now, Captain Marco Pagat was a member of the Italian Air Force during World War I. He was known for his piloting skills as well as his personal character. One famous story about him was that he once dived into the raging sea to save an enemy pilot. During the war, he saw best friends and fellow pilots from both sides of the war fall to their deaths. He was disgusted with the governments, their battles, and their politics. He decided that he did not want to be a human anymore, and so he became a pig. He became known as Porco Rosso, the Crimson Pig, and from then on, flew only for himself. Since becoming a pig, he has become a bounty hunter in the Adriatic Sea. His service is often requested to aid passenger ships that are attacked by flying pirates. While Porco Rosso uses his ammunition to take down planes, he never kills anybody. Next we have Donald Curtis, voiced by Cary Elwes. Best known as Baron Humbert von Gickingen from Whisperer of the Heart and The Cat Returns. Curtis is Porco Rosso's arch nemesis and the pilot of Curtis R3C-0. This guy has a very American attitude. He likes to show off and act as a leader to the pirates. He was originally in love with Gina and wanted her to come act as a movie star in Hollywood, but he falls in love with every beautiful girl that he sees. So he ends up loving Fio Piccolo. Next we have Porco Rosso's girlfriend, Madame Gina, voiced by Megara herself, Susan Egan, whom I've met a couple times a while back. Gina is a beautiful opera singer and the owner of the Hotel Adriano. She's very kind and wants people to get along. She remembers her husband's and how she can never get over it. She's also very fond of Marco Paget and talks about him as a dear old friend to her. She's also 3 times married and widowed. Also in her young days, she flew with Marco in his plane Adriano, which her hotel is named after. She does love him, but she doesn't make the move for a proposal yet. Next up we have the Mama Aiuto gang boss, Capo, voiced by Brad Garrett, who has been in Jetsons the Movie, The Country Bears, Casper, Tangled, and Finding Nemo. To me, Capo's gang may be a tad rough, but the weird thing is, he cares for girls, and he does not want to see them get hurt. Finally, we have Theo Piccolo, voiced by Kimberly Williams-Paisley, best known from the Father of the Bride films and the Christmas Chronicles. Theo is an intelligent, friendly young aircraft designer that had recently moved to the U.S. to help with her grandfather's company, Piccolo S.p.A., to cope after the Great Depression. She was responsible for most of the plane design repairs after she persuaded Marco Paddock to give her the job of fixing his machine, Savoia S.21. She was almost handed over to Donald Curtis when Marco and he were fighting one-on-one in aerial combat. At the end of the movie, she becomes good friends with Gina, and she takes over the company. Now let's move on to my final words. Overall, Porco Rosso is an okay movie. Like I said earlier, this is not one of my favorite films that Hayao Miyazaki has directed. Yes, the animation is great. Several characters like Porco Rosso, Gina, and Theo are the most memorable, while others like Donald Curtis and Capo are pretty weird. On the other hand, the voice acting is absolutely fantastic, but the story could have been done better. So, my rating for this movie will be a 61% out of 100. Well, that's all for today. Be sure to join me again next time as we go back to the late 1990s to look at the very first Pokemon movie. Mustang Power!